Attention bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Hello, Yodelers! We are the Matterhorn Yodelers. I am your host today, Japheth. And I'm with...
Jackie.
And...
Hey guys, I'm Mobius. I'm on my jet ski, guys. Wow. Wow.
Did he say wow?
I don't think he did.
I don't think so.
He probably tries not to say it.
I think he tries to say it, and I think
You just have to embrace what you are. You know, when you're in that.
Wow.
He's done that.
You know what? He may have. He might have just thrown a subtle, like, wow.
I had to go back.
He was really low-key this...
Loki?
Yeah. I didn't even mean that.
We're talking about Loki.
Yes, we're talking about Loki. Yes, we are talking about Loki season 2. Before we get into spoilers, because we're just gonna go episode by episode and talk about what we like, because each episode builds upon itself on this journey.
Yes,
and then you get to a point where you're like, "What?" All right, you do that a lot in this. It's science fiction here. Jackie, how many Mickey bars?
I give it like based on like TV series against the other Marvels, or
just what would you rank the movie?
Just what? How many Mickey bars are?
like 3.5.
3.5. Okay, Peter, what do you give
I'll
it?
go 4.5.
I'm like, I want to give it 5, but I feel
Right. Same here.
I think I'm just writing.
Maybe it's just the newness of it.
The newness of it, and like the freshness of this. I walked away going, this is the best sci-fi I've encountered in a long time. That doesn't have to deal with like spaceships and aliens and stuff like that. I was like, I'm watching comic books and I'm getting a great sci-fi story, and I'm like, it was just like breathing fresh air after like being in a stinky bus for so long. We call like
the MCU
streaming
right
series and stuff, and even with Star Wars, like I'm like going, I'm debating like I want to make this better than Mandalorian. Like for me, I had no idea what this show was going to do and how it was going to happen. And with Mandalorian, I know a lot about Star Wars, and I kind of know where it's going. And I just like, oh, I just love what I'm seeing, but I kind of know what's going to happen.
Right.
But with this, I was like, we're doing something original. This is great.
Definitely original.
It's definitely original. It's definitely outside of the normal Marvel formula. Or
It's kind of like watching the Werewolf. We were like, whoa, this is
so
different.
You finally watched it?
I finally watched it.
This is good, right?
It was really good. I was like, I need to watch this before next year, because they came out with the color version, and I watched that. That was fun.
You watched the black and white or the color?
The color version.
Oh.
I know the black and white probably like gave it a.
It had that like early 1900
Aesthetic,
vibe to it, like old school monster movie vibe.
Yeah, we recommend that. So everyone, we recommend it. If you watch season 1, you got to watch season 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't leave it cliffhanging.
You do need to watch season 1. It literally kicks off like right away.
After.
It's seamless. These ratings are insane. The last episode got a 9.6 out of 10.
I believe it.
And there's 15,000 ratings for it.
I'm surprised by it because I wasn't like fully impressed by it or
Oh,
wowed.
man.
But I'm usually one that gives higher ratings, so I'm actually kind of
And that's why I like that you have something different, because you may crack that window for me and going, oh, maybe it isn't that great.
It was good. Don't get me wrong. I think it was good. A lot better than a lot of different series. I still recommend it over a lot of different series.
It is. It's definitely, I think Mandalorian is the crown jewel of Disney Plus, and I think this is one that like
it's up there.
It glimmers. It's the green jewel in the crown for sure. It's great. All right. So
let's get into the spoilers.
Spoilers. Well, pause this, watch it, come back. There's only 6 episodes. First episode's called Ouroboros. And
OB.
OB.
Oh, Obi. Great character.
Yes. Not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No.
OB.
Obi. He's amazing.
He's portrayed by Ki Hugh Kwan. He is
Short round.
Short Rounds from
D.
Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. And he's
He's in Goonies.
in Goonies.
He's also an Oscar winner.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just won an Oscar last
He's
year.
also in the Chinese American show.
Yes.
He had a great role in there. So we start the season where we left off, where He Who
Loki's-
Remains gets killed,
Right.
and Loki ends up in the TVA after Sylvie kicks him out.
Yeah.
Right.
And at that point, Sylvie kills He Who Remains, and
Loki gets taken and is encountered by Mobius and B-15. Is that her name?
I think you're right. B-15.
B-15.
Hunter B-15.
And they don't recognize Loki. And so that's where we're left off after season 1.
Yeah. And we get started right in there. And so you got Loki and this chase scene running around, and then he time slips.
Yes.
That was freaky. Right?
He's like fidgeting time. Yes.
I would love his little neck snap every time he like comes out of it
Yes. Well, I mean, I think they play a joke with it.
at the end, or when he's trying to like, now you got to control the time slipping later on, and he like keeps
Well-
doing this neck thing.
So here's my question. So he time slips and goes, and that's how he gets to know who Mobius, and they build a bond. And right.
Well, that's way later.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, what happened to the timeline that was originally there? Did it just disappear?
The sacred timeline?
The timeline where like Mobius knew who Loki was.
Okay. So okay, that might be what you're missing. So Loki is now time slipping. So when he got sent back, he actually got sent back in time in the TVA. And so they had never met Loki at that point. And so Loki then teleports back to present time
It's
Present.
It's before all the murals of like
Yeah.
He Who Remains.
because you still see
Okay,
Kang
I
everywhere.
thought
And-
it was like a different line
No,
of the timeline.
that was the assumption when they left us. Like,
Yes.
oh, we're on like
They
an alternate
changed-
thing. No, it's time.
Kang the Conqueror took over like that. It was like
Well,
instantaneous.
it's
like,
not King the Conqueror. It's He Who Remains.
He Who
Yes.
Remains. But like he was killed,
Right.
and then he goes, there will be many more
Right.
worse than me. And that's how you're thinking is, oh, it's King the Conqueror with the statues and stuff. But you're right. He goes back in time because you're thinking like, well, they're all the same characters. Like, well, they're all stuck in time or in this place where the time doesn't change for them. But you notice it because the floor cracks. So he crashes and like the TV falls on the ground. And then when he slips back into the present, you see the ground. It's been fixed.
And he asks, and he goes, "How long has that been there?" He's like, "Oh, that's always been there."
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's where
That's when he realizes he's time jumping.
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, he's time slipping and Loki, is trying to, he gets Mobius to help him
Yes.
by introducing to Obi or Ouroboros, and he's like
the brains.
He's the brain.
Yeah. He wrote the TVA book, which is fun.
That's kind of interesting how that comes about later on.
Right. The snake eating its another snake.
Which is Ouroboros, that's
Yes.
kind of funny. So yes, Obi meets or excuse me, not Morpheus, it's
Mobius.
Mobius
I know.
brings him
I
there.
had a hesitation
I'm like,
when I
"Mo-"
introduced myself. I was like, more Mobius.
You have two choices. Take the blue pill or the red
Right.
pill.
Exactly.
I'll take the green one.
Wait, where did that green one come from? My pocket.
No, that was a Mike and Ike. Welcome to my brain, everyone. Let's move on. Yes, so Obi's the smart one. He just knows everything, and Loki's like, I keep like going throughout time. He's like, oh,
That's
Obi's like,
impossible.
yeah, that's impossible. You can't do that here. And he does it, and he goes, wow, you're time slipping. And he's like, how do I fix this? And
I don't know.
and he goes, I don't know. And then like he makes the device to save Loki from time slipping, which is a temporal oral extractor. And he's got to walk across this plank,
Right.
very
quickly.
but it's really slow as you're watching because it's this giant radiation suit. And they, put the extractor in the loom and, they shoot it off, but they got to get it in a certain amount of time.
Right.
And they give him this clock.
Right. Because Loki has to prune himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's apparently like scattered throughout time. And so if he prunes himself
At the right time.
All of his entity will supposedly come back together at one, and then the tether will pull him back out. That's kind of that was kind of
like
my
there's many
understanding
going
of it.
all at once, and he's flipping through them.
Right.
Like his body cannot, or his soul can't figure out where it should go.
Right.
And so what they're trying to do is, extract them back into one. And
Right.
to make it easier. Not confusing at all, right? So they take it to the temporal loom, which is the heart of the TVA. It takes like the raw time and it refines it. That's what you see, like where all the timelines wave into this
Loom.
Yes.
but it's like a funnel, and then it like creates the sacred timeline. Right at the time, the temporal, like when whom remained.
He who remains.
He whom remains, he's dead, and like all the branches are going crazy right now, and it's overloading this loom as this failsafe to protect the sacred timeline. So, that's going on, and Loki is able to do it. He gets slingshot, so it's Mobius is able to do it, and he pulls him in.
And
It was fun because like you see different
Mobius doesn't turn
scenes.
into spaghetti.
He doesn't turn into spaghetti, which is kind of unnerving when you actually do see it later on.
I think overall through the series with time, you got to see different scenes, and then you got to put like 2 and 2 together throughout the show, and that makes it fun for the viewer.
It does. You're like, what's this scene? Why do they keep showing this
'Cause
scene?
you're like putting a puzzle together.
And you finally get the piece, and in a later episode, and you put it in, and you're like, oh, look, it all matches
It all
right there.
goes.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, and while all this chaos is going on, Loki sees Sylvie, who is the girl version of Loki that they
Yes.
were together, who killed he whom remains.
Yes.
Sorry if I say that slowly. It's a tongue twister for me right now. And all while this is going on, you have General Dox, who's ordered the destruction of the branches. So you have this like chaos going on, and it's like the great supreme leader's gone. What do we do? And it's
Yeah.
like business as usual, or do we allow the chaos? And there's just fear of like what happens with chaos because we've always done this.
Right.
And so it's kind of that like business as usual or
And
embrace
so there's
the
that
new change.
conflict. Yeah.
There's that conflict, and that leads into the next episode, which is Breaking Brad. I love these names for these
Yes.
episode. So yeah, you have this character, Brad Wolf.
He's a hunter.
He's a hunter, and he was trying to find Sylvie because Loki saw Sylvie, and they're like, "She's the key to all what this is like. We need her for."
Yeah, she's needed. Like she's actually important for something. We don't know what, but she's important.
But she's there at the end,
Mm-hmm.
where Loki's seeing when he's slipping, and he goes, "She's got to be able to explain this." So they go to find they what did they found a hit from one of the hunters,
Right.
and he's made this whole new life where he's a director in the 70s. Brad Wolf.
No, he's an actor.
He's an actor.
He's an actor. I
He's
thought he
an
was a
actor.
director.
He's like, no, he's an actor.
Oh, he's an actor.
He's a big,
Movie star.
movie star, and he's living a new lifestyle that loves the attention.
Yeah, he was good. It was fun to watch him. I like seeing Loki and Mobius like try to find. I love how they changed clothes for the
Yes.
era.
Yes.
Well, they were already wearing 70s clothes, so it wasn't really much of a change for them. But it was fun, and I love seeing Loki when he goes into the real world because he's got magic.
He's got his magic back.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to see him release the chaos, and I loved how he
You-
grabbed the shadows to grab Brad in that moment.
This series, you really didn't get to see Loki be Loki that much because he was most of the time in the TVA.
Right.
He is. He's also changed.
He is a changed character.
He went from like season 1 to survive, right? He's just surviving, trying to make sense of this whole world. You know, he kind of falls in love with this other Loki, you know, and
Falls in love with himself.
Well, falls in love with himself, right?
Which is-
you know, we have a
that's
lot in
Loki.
common. This is great. We should do this more often.
Let's just make this work.
It's yeah, he's gone through a lot where he's like, my world is gone, you know, and I'm just trying to survive. And along this journey, he makes friends, and he's finding purpose, and this
Beyond
arc.
his glorious purpose.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, to regain a throne, you know, and he's been giving task and purpose, and you know, he's got that growth, and so yeah, he is different, and we see that this season where you're like, if you love Chaos Loki, you're not gonna get it.
No.
You know, you're getting a
You
very introspective, existential Loki.
Yeah.
Like, what am I really doing? What's my purpose? How do I lose myself?
But we
in
do get a
this?
very fun scene in this episode when they're interrogating him.
Yes. What's that fun scene?
You know, because it was a chance for.
Because there's some darkness. Like,
There was some
Brad,
darkness.
Brad gets at his skin. He goes like, "You're a loser. You lose. Stop being a hero. Just be a villain."
Right.
He's like trying. He knows
He's
how
trying
to.
to get into Loki.
He's a
like-
He knows how to manipulate and just get
Well,
to
and the
your
thing is,
soul.
I never felt that like he was getting under Loki's skin. Obviously, he got under Mobius's skin, but I never felt like he got under Loki's skin. I think Loki was just like, I think he was playing it up for him a little bit.
Okay.
And then he kind of like used that as like, okay, we're gonna come back in and we're gonna scare him, as if, yeah, I am the bad guy,
Yeah.
and
I'm angry.
I'm gonna kill you right now.
And that may be so. You know, I could definitely see that interpretation. I didn't really get that, but I could see how that could
Yeah.
play out with how the story goes on.
For me personally, knowing what I know about Loki, that didn't seem like anything that would trigger him. From other things that I have seen him get triggered by, that the things that he was throwing at him is like, yeah, that's what I've been told my whole life. Like, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but like, obviously, it struck a nerve with Mobius. Mobius was losing it.
He does lose it. I think going back to like Loki, I think for someone as lost as Loki is, because he keeps, and he's like,
Keeps losing. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do and what's right, what's wrong, and what's next.
he's disoriented, and then have someone to just poke at you. But
Right.
I can see where you're going. I totally get it. Yeah. But you know, they try to get Brad because he
knows where
Sylvie is, because she got lost. She has the temporal pad, and she found a new home in the timeline. And Brad takes him to McDonald's. 1982. I was like, oh man, that's my childhood. Not in 82, but like that building,
That type of
that
McDonald's.
Type of McDonald's.
that type of McDonald's, which made it probably into like the 2000s for a lot of them,
Yeah, depending on
with like the
areas.
terracotta like
Yeah.
roofs. Yeah. So Sylvie's working in a McDonald's in Oklahoma in 1982.
I love that it's like the most simple life of like I can choose any life, but you know, working McDonald's sounds amazing.
I'm just living. It kind of reminds me of like General Grant. Here's a tangent for you. You know, from before the Civil War, he went through the
Right.
U.S. Academy, and like before the war, he's like selling wood at a
Yeah.
general store. You know, the guy who's going to become president, save the Union, and
Yeah,
before
right.
he's selling wood, you know, he's like, I don't need that glory. I'm just
Well, I mean, you look at celebrities now, and like the biggest thing they probably miss is like just going to the store and just getting some eggs without being noticed.
She's literally been on the run her whole life.
Yeah,
And just to like
living in places where
Ex-
the world is gonna end.
exactly, yeah.
And so just to go someplace that's just like quiet and simple and not complicated.
People
it's
from
just-
Oklahoma are not simple. Yeah, so Brad spills the beans and about Docs. That's why he's like nervous while he's there. General Docs, and he's like, she is pruning everything, and like he doesn't know
All the branches,
and since she's a variant, it's a branch.
Right.
Yes.
And so he's like, "Whoa, what are we doing here? I don't
We
want to be
should
here
go.
anymore.
We should leave.
We
should
gotta go.
leave
We
right
gotta
now."
go." Yeah.
He's like, why are you in such a hurry? Why are you trying to leave? All like, what's going on? What are you not telling us?
You get the nervousness. You're making me. So yeah, they find out and they have this battle in a warehouse where they're
Yeah.
implementing, their their mass
plan.
destruction of all the branches, which kills all these people and their lives. It's kind of the dilemma of like when you kill a branch, you're killing everybody there.
Right.
Even it's a universe. So yeah.
You better hope
Is this
that
where
you were.
Renslayer's in this episode?
No,
too?
Renslayer shows up the
No.
next
Excellent.
episode. Yeah, they at the end of this episode they get a hit on Renslayer's time pad.
Yeah.
And that's what takes them to 1868 because Miss Minutes and the third
Creepy.
this episode, yeah, you're like, whoa, we went weird with this character.
Yeah.
Miss Minutes, she had the plan, like basically a will of like if he whom remains dies,
This is what you do.
this is what you do, and basically gave her, Renslayer a package to drop off on a window at this exact location at this time, which is Chicago in 1868, in a very, I would say it's a shanty town almost.
Yeah.
Slums.
Yeah.
And drops off the manual, and there's a young, what's his name? Victor Timely. He's in there, and then they move on to 1898 or 93,
The World's Fair.
the World Fair
Yeah.
in Chicago, and that's where Loki and Mobius, they're trying to find Renslayer. What are they trying to do there? I can't remember.
I
They're
think they're just trying.
Miss Minutes, because Miss Minutes needs to turn off
Oh.
because it's starting to can't override the system. It's locked
That's right.
because they need
They can't
the
use
aura.
the temp pads. and
They can't
things
use the
like
temp.
that.
Yeah, the aura. They require the aura of
Victor
he whom
Timely.
yeah, Victor Timely.
Okay. This is where it gets weak for me.
Okay.
And I just think they kind of threw in this, like, oh, we need Miss Minute. But after that, like, I don't know. I just felt like that storyline just, like, dropped.
I will agree
Miss
that
Minute
the Miss
really
Minute-
didn't play a part. You could have cut it, and it would have made no difference.
I think it was a quick fix because they're like, well, the guy who we need to override this is dead. We need his temporal aura, but we could have the person who is the code. She can flip it off.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's do that route. And then they see Victor Timely. And you see that at the end of Ant-Man
right.
when Loki goes, that's he whom remains.
Right.
And they're like, we could go that route.
Yeah.
But I get it. You could cut it out.
You can cut out the Renslayer and
Yes.
Miss Minutes subplot out. You could.
It's a weak bridge
It's
to get to this point to
weak,
bring Victor
And
in.
I felt like they just put it in there just to have those characters in the story.
Yeah.
You could. I think they're just a
It
small
played-
bridge. They funnel you in. You
Yeah.
have to go with them because there's no leads to take you to Victor. There's no information
No.
about his past, and he's proven to be helpful. It
Right.
actually shows you can change.
The last episode of the season definitely proves that these characters are not as important as we were thinking they were going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this where it becomes the grander fight.
But I mean, this is all a part of, and we'll get into this later, of the plan of He Who Remains. This was all constructed. And that was the one thing I noticed a lot every time they started a new episode. They always went back to that, like in the recap of season 1, where he goes, I have paved the road for you to get to this point. And they kept showing that in
That's true, they
in the
did.
recaps of almost every episode, which signified to me like, He Who Remains
It's all part of the
plays-
plan.
has been playing a part, and so I think that's what their role was, to show that he who remains is not really dead. Like, he's dead, but he's not. Time. Crazy.
Yeah, it was
It's hard to write a story for time.
or outside of time.
Yeah.
Dimensions, realities. Yeah.
And I think that was the scariest part probably for Marvel with mainstream, is like it's too complicated.
Yeah.
Because I've heard from people going like, this is way complicated. I remember watching the first season of Loki and going, what's going on? We're dealing
Right.
with time, and it's all like, okay, we're dealing with a lot of abstract right here. And watching a second time, I was like, oh, it makes sense. And then discussing it on the podcast, is like, I've got a better grasp of this.
Right.
And like watching this again, I was like, oh, I've got a better grasp of like how everything works and the mechanics and what they're doing. But yeah, so we're back in Chicago, and we get to meet Victor Timely, who becomes He Who Remains, and
He's a variant of He Who
Yes.
a
Remains.
variant. Yes, he's the guy who starts it all. Wouldn't you say?
He's the brains behind the TV. I mean, again, it goes to that whole.
It's
TVA
the loop.
man-
Like,
it's
who
the-
created? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I kind of just
Is
said like
he a
he's the beginning
variant,
of
or
it.
is he the beginning of it all? Is it the same person? Or is it a variant?
It's the same aura.
That was. Well, I mean, you could grab any variant, and that was just a variant that they found.
It's true. He would have the same aura because alligator Loki is the same as
Yeah.
regular Loki.
as
We'll have the
TVA
same-
Loki.
Correct.
You could stick them in the aura thing, and
It would recognize.
it would
them
recognize.
as a Loki, because they kept referring to it like, "Oh, you're a Loki. Like,
Yeah.
your auras, you're all the same."
Remember, like in the first season, they show like the bodies, and one has a triangle head, one has a square head. I think I had like, yeah, they're all
Right.
the same body, just a different type of head. But yeah, we meet him, and he's kind of this con artist.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to see him in that, and I liked his character.
Oh, he was a
Oh,
great.
I
He
thought
was a fun
he was
character.
a fun character. You're like, wait, how can he be evil? He seems kind of likable.
He's like Google when they first started, right? Do no evil, and then they take down the sign.
Right.
No,
I mean, he was a smart scientist
yeah.
and
He-
was just ahead of the time, but that was the
Well, you got the
with
TVA manual.
manual.
You're leaps and millennia
Yeah.
ahead of
There are
everybody,
thousands of years
right?
of knowledge.
Of knowledge in there, and it kind of blueprints it for you, and that's what he was trying to do, was to create this cycle where he is the beginning variant of everything to come.
But he has this like conflict of like, oh, do I go with Renslayer and Miss Minutes, or do I go with Loki and Mobius? And like, he's like, what? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And he's so unclear. And
think
he's like, I'm just gonna go wherever I'm safe.
Yeah, I think it's survival.
Yeah.
It's because he's always on the run. You get a sense of that, where he's just
doesn't
trying to
know-
survive.
he doesn't know who
and
to
there's
trust.
and partners. It may have been there, maybe a past thing with partners, because he mentioned that was the thing that flipped on him with Renslayers. Like, we could be partners in this together. And like you saw earlier with the one guy, it's all like, "Oh, I want your device, and we'll be partners." And he's just like, "Nope, I don't trust anybody that wants to be my partner. Like, they just got money, and now you're my friend,
Right.
right? No, I don't think so." Yeah. Then Sylvie shows up, tries to kill Victor,
Yep.
while
Yeah.
trying to convince him in that. And then I love the ghost clock comes out and the World Fair
That was good.
for them to
It
escape.
was really funny.
So yeah, you had that, and then Renslayer, and they go on this boat because they're trying to get to his office to pick up the multiplier and the different things that he had in his
he
lab.
wanted to bring this random prototype.
He's
with
got lots of prototypes,
And they
right?
kind of hinted towards
A
like a love
prototype.
story with like Renslayer and all He Who Remains, or
Yeah, there was a tension there.
there was a love story, and that's because in the comics books, Renslayer is the like love interest,
Significant
yeah.
other. Okay. Yeah, you get the partners thing, and then that's when he's all like, "Here's this boat, enjoy the lake."
Right.
And then like you get the creepy,
Creepy
like
misfits.
AI falls in love with the creator.
Be careful of AI, folks.
Your toaster will fall in love with you.
You will never be like him.
Wasn't there a Disney story with the house?
Yeah, smart house.
Smart
House.
House.
So somebody was watching Smart House and going, we're going to do that to Miss Minutes.
I think any AI storyline indicates some sort of like
Unstable,
Yes.
like,
Love?
yeah.
I don't know.
or
I don't think Skynet works like that way.
Unstable.
I just need someone to love me.
mental. Doesn't have the common sense kind of thing of like,
make me a body.
yeah. I think that's when he was like, realized like, oh, I chose poorly.
He's like, I don't know about this. And you get this sense it's coming now is like the order versus chaos. It's Renslayer's order with the TVA and control of the timeline, and you get the chaos with Sylvie going like free will, and like, but you got Loki going like, I don't know about this. It's like,
It's like
free
things
will.
are falling apart,
Yeah.
allowing
Your
this
way
free
of
will.
thinking is not working.
And it's all like, we're all just trying to survive. Like, we think this is all going to go away, including us, if we don't go back to normal. And that's where Loki has that construct of like, if I fix it, we can live, and we can
be
and we can
friends and happy,
and we can expand the loom in order to
accommodate for the multiple branches.
yeah.
Well, and Loki had kind of started building a life that he enjoyed.
Yep.
He built friendships,
Cohesion.
I thought
purpose.
Yes.
at this point, actually no, this is I think episode 5 when my theory comes into play. Sorry.
No, I one thing I did take away from this was the explanation of things. When Victor Timely goes like, the time loom takes raw temporal energy and refines it into physical timeline. Part of the reason the TVA prunes extra timelines is so that the temporal loom doesn't overload trying to weave too many timelines at once. So I was like, oh, okay, that explains where this energy and this sort of like time's just this wavy thing, and it's just like it explains it's just like it's just
Why-
the decaying
it explains
radiation energy.
Why the sacred timeline was so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm getting behind this. And then we get into like episode 4, the heart of the TVA, and that's where we're at. You know, it gets a little weird.
Is this the pie?
This is one of the pie episodes, yes.
This is one where it leaves you at the end going like, what?
What happened?
We were all leading up to this point. Yeah, you get Miss Timely and Renslayer. Miss Timely talks about where Renslayer came from.
Right.
Yes.
The memory was wiped, and
She was a general of He Who Remains
During the war.
during that multiverse war.
you know, and then he whom remains, he goes, execute order 66. No, he execute protocol 42.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just what I kind of thought of
Well, and I
in that
think
moment.
the
42,
reason-
which you know the reference to 42, right?
No, it's 4 plus 2 equals 6. And then you times it by 2 sixes and you get 66, which is order 66.
So
Like my math.
So this is a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I thought the answer was 9.
No, it's 42.
42.
42 is the answer to the meaning of life and everything.
It's just ignorance and be wiped out with your memory. Ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was thinking about Renslayer and her memory being wiped, and they kind of talk about it in the last episode of like,
Where were you before?
yeah, I think she chose it because she did some bad things to make the TVA what it was.
And they do talk about that, making the
Yes.
hard choices.
And making the hard choices.
That's the last episode
Yes.
with Mobius.
And I think that's part of the reason why she wiped her memory, just because I don't know what she did, but obviously it was not good.
Yeah, there's a question. She did what had to be done.
Yes.
And you get that with Mobius because he was her partner. You get Loki. He brings up you can't give people free will because there's this choice now. Like, what do we do here? You got Sylvie here who's just like, you're trying to protect what I was fighting against, and you keep bringing me in this, and you don't believe in this. Like, what are you doing here? And that's the whole pie scene. It's like, you're just gonna have pie, when like everybody's dying here and and they get those talks like at the cooler, but key
Yeah.
lime pie talk, and you get that where Loki gives up his point of view of he's like, I can't give them free will. I can't just let this chaos go, and walk away without protecting them. And that's where Sylvie goes like, you're going to act like we're gods. And he goes like, but we are gods.
That's it.
He
Yeah.
keep forgetting like he is a god.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you get Ren that comes in. She's at the TVA and tries to re-enlist or enlist Dox, who's in the prison,
Right.
for a coup. And then it gets super dark where they try to
Just
squish him in the
kill
box.
them.
And
Yeah.
Miss Minutes gets really creepy
Yeah.
at
She
that
does
moment.
that, right?
That smile as they're
Yeah.
dying, like that was like, oh my gosh.
She's a dark soul.
Very dark right there. Yes. While we'll bring this up, Victor Timely does show up at the TVA.
That was great. I thought that was so fun.
Say he's there and he's like, whoa, do I trust it? But then he finds out like my loom's here. And
Yeah.
like he's curious to see his
What's-
creation.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, okay, this is cool. It's all here. And he gets to meet Obi and Obi meets him.
Yes.
And they're just like, oh my gosh.
Their work
I
all
love-
inspired each other.
Yes.
Obi's energy in this show. I thought it brought a light to the show
Absolutely.
of energy because the other characters were
He
very
was
serious.
he was the comic
He was
relief.
the comic, yes.
There's just like this carefreeness where he just accepts. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You give it to him and he
This
goes,
is the way it is.
yeah, that's how it is.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's like, there's a problem? Okay. And that's what we do.
It's just a matter of fact.
Yeah.
There's no dwelling on it. You just move
There's
forward.
no like
There's nothing else I could have done.
yeah.
That's it.
So yeah, he does that. I love their little fanboyness
Yeah.
to each other. It was adorable. They're trying to solve the problem where Loki and Sylvie are trying to get back, and they're like, well, Miss Minutes is slowing us down. It's like, well, we have to shut down the system, but then magic can happen here. And they're like,
Oh.
turn it off.
I know, I love that. Obi's like, but then magic can happen. They're like, wait, why didn't we do this earlier? Like
Turn it
this
off
could
now.
have been helped.
Yes. So that was fun. And to see like Miss Minutes get turned off and like look at Victor and he's like, you'll never be him. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
That face she gave, like that was like, ooh.
That was dark. Miss Minutes with that sweet southern voice turned
Oh.
really dark.
Yeah.
They originally wanted to have like a Siri-like voice, but then they liked that southern
But
voice.
like, Miss Minute definitely gave it that kind of like Halloween creepy tone,
Yeah.
which was when this
It's
was
appropriate
coming
for
out.
it, yeah. Totally. Yes, it came out October 26th. So yeah, you're right. And you got the ghost of the clock too.
Yeah.
From the previous episode. But yeah, they enchant X5 Brad, and that prunes Renslayer, and then Loki gets Victor, and Victor tries to get the multiplier to the loom, and they get that big heavy suit, and he gets turned into spaghetti.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts at that point? You're like, oh, we've built up to this point, and now
It's gone.
it's gone.
I was like, my question was, where are they going with this story?
Well,
Exactly.
I think that was
There's
the
2
point.
episodes left, right? You're
Yeah.
like,
I think
what's
that was
next?
the whole point. Like everything had been building up to this moment right here.
It was like,
and it's
okay,
all like,
I know what's going on. Okay, I can assume what's gonna happen next, and then that happens, and you're like, okay,
and I loved how it was like quiet. Even
Yeah.
even as the credits started, like it was still just like quiet to leave you just like in that suspense.
It's
of
a heavy
like,
moment of
what
like
just
they're all
happened?
gone. Yeah, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get that multiplier. Because what they're trying to do is expand the rings of the loom to prevent the collapse,
yeah,
to take in more, and so the loom's temporal decay outpaces the multiplier through the capacity, and that was what the round thing was, is to increase the multiplier to expand it, and that's what that little spherical ball was. But too little, too late, and that kind of leads us to
So F5, right?
We're at
Yeah.
episode 5, where we have science fiction. But at that point, after it all blows up, Loki, he time slips, right?
Yep.
Yes.
He goes back. He's not out of the game. It's
No.
not over, but it's the end story right there. And so he starts time slipping and he's like, not this again. And that's where we get to meet the old gang, where they're from.
Yeah.
Was it refreshing to have that kind of
It was
like,
nice to get out of the TVA.
yeah, because I mean, we were just
We've
in
been
the
in the
heart of the
TVA,
TVA
yeah.
the last episode.
We're out of the TVA. We're getting to know the backstory because everyone wants to know what's with the jet skis. What's
Right.
with what we learned that they have a life.
What their
before.
lives
It would have
are.
been nice to see Owen Wilson's movies eat some key lime pie
Right.
on a jet ski, like a benta. Yeah, so I mean, we've got Obi. He's a physicist. He's
an author.
He's an author.
Yeah, he
The
writes a
Zartan,
book
the
that's
Contingent,
not good.
by A.D. Doug, Ph.D.
Just not well known.
Well known, yeah. Science fiction.
Science fiction. And then you get Owen Wilson and his jet ski salesman. That
He has
wasn't
2 kids.
that was cute to
Yeah.
see him like interact.
And
Very realistic. Like, if you get your brother, I'll get you a dog. Like the bribery of being a parent.
well, they compared how the different behaviors of his 2 children, like Thor and Loki.
Ooh.
One was like very like burning the toys and things like that, and the other one was just kind of off on his own adventures.
Interesting.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's a good connection.
What we get? We get Casey. He's one of like the, assistants there. He's kind of like the guy that's like, it's hard to describe him. He's there.
He's just a worker.
A worker there, but he's been there throughout, and he's part of the prison break of Alcatraz in
Right.
62. There's the rumor like no one's escaped Alcatraz, but there's the rumor that 2 guys escaped, but they were eaten by sharks. There's actually a documentary on Disney Plus about sharks in San Francisco Bay, and like they ate the 2 people that escaped. That's why there's no escaping it. But Casey was the 3rd person, and he was plucked up, to join the TVA. And then you meet.
Well, there was did you catch the Easter egg for Casey?
No.
Because Casey makes a reference. He says, if you don't hurry up, I'm going to gut you like a fish. Which is a reference to when Loki first one of the first interactions Loki had with him in season 1, where he's all like, you better, do as I say and give me the Tesseract or I'll gut you like a fish. And he's like, what's a fish?
That's true. That's a good little Easter egg right there.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's good. That's great that they gave him that line.
Loki, he goes back and he finds B-15. She's a doctor.
And she actually, you look like a doctor.
Yeah.
You look like a nurse or what? Like, yeah, that's believable.
Yeah.
And then he finds Obi, and he basically has a conversation like, I'm time slipping. And he's like, of course you are.
One thing I thought was interesting about Obi's place, where you find Obi.
It's the same as his workplace.
It's the same as his workplace at the TVA.
It also looks like a tree.
Oh.
I watched a video where they're like, the hints, the foreshadowing is
Gotcha.
everywhere
Okay.
without the MCU for this moment. Obi, tells Loki to learn how to he needs to learn how to time slip in order to get back to the TVA to save the day. Because this is what he's trying to do. He's like, I need to get back to that moment to fix it.
And this is when I thought, oh, this is the moment how all of the people in TVA end up at the TVA, is that Loki's the one that goes and gets them.
He's
That
the
was
one
my
that picked
them
thought
up.
process. Was like,
Totally.
oh, this is how it all begins.
It loops
Yeah.
back.
That Loki is the one that actually recruits everyone to the TVA.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
That's not the case. And Obi has the visual of like what you need to do. You're drawn to all these people in time because they're with you where you need to be at the TVA. And he has the cup analogy, and he's like, you need to get all your pens. And,
I love. He's like, so we can use that as coordinates to get home. No, what?
I love how like Obi doesn't know what TVA is, doesn't know anything, but it's just like go along with story because that's the character of Obi in TVA.
But
Well, he references it as if that's what his book was about.
Yeah.
I think the
He's like,
book
you're a
tries it.
character from my book.
Yeah.
Like he references Loki as a character from his own book. So it's as
That's
if,
what drives
right.
the, it's like in Star Trek, you have like the iPads,
Yes.
and then that's what drives, like, we've got iPads,
Yeah.
so the science fiction drives the science, and he brings it up. He goes, science is about what and how, and fiction is about why,
Why? Yep.
and he tries to hit it. It's like, what's driving you? What's going on
Yeah.
here? And he's absent. He's like, well, science says electricity doesn't do this, but he's trying to get, he's thinking is like, if you can get to these people and bring them back here, somehow that'll jolt you or help you with your time slipping to get to this location. It's kind of like you're in a science experiment because
Right.
we don't know what caused it. And he also gives Loki gives OB the TVA manual,
So that he can make a TemPad.
and he does.
Yeah.
He's like,
it
15
takes him like 15
Yes.
years, but
and
he
I was
does
like,
it.
that's
It was funny
awesome.
when he's like, "Oh, you did that so quick," and he was like, "It took a lot longer."
15 years of divorce
Right.
in my career. But eventually, Loki learns how to control his time slipping. He does try to convince Sylvie.
Because it's not about how, it's about who.
Yes. Yeah, and Sylvie is just like, why are you doing this?
Right.
And you do get this like really heart like moment of Loki. You get the core of Loki at this point where he goes, Loki just wants to truly save his friends back
Yeah.
and bring them back, and it doesn't want to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the
This is like the first family he's had.
Yeah,
where he's not
Like,
an outsider.
ever.
where he's not the enemy.
Because he's never really he never had that relationship with Thor like he did, but
he's not an
did.
equal. Like
Right.
here, he is an equal, and
Right.
magic is not like used to be superior. It's just he is who he is, and he helps that way,
Right.
and he's useful. And he's come to an identity, and that's what he's afraid of. He's like, I finally got it. Instead of just going, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna go do it. He feels this now. And where do we ended up with this? Yeah, he learns how to control and do time slipping, and he eventually gets to the next episode where he ends up where he's at. Right.
He figures out how to do it.
Yes, because the world he was at turns to spaghetti.
Right.
And like in that moment, that's when he's able to, I can time slip. And he tells us like, I can do this. And then he's like, I'm going to go back to where we were at the TVA and ask
gonna-
Obi like, what do we need to do to fix this?
And
Yeah.
that was my wife was laughing hysterically during like these first like 10,
Oh, really?
The
15
first 10 minutes, the Groundhog's moment.
Yes.
Of all the time slipping.
It's video games.
Yeah.
It's like playing.
It's like, okay, you're gonna go down the chute, you're gonna hit the button,
That's
you're gonna,
true.
and you're
it's
gonna get back as fast as you
it's
can. Go.
pre-save video games.
Yep.
That's what he was doing. And going through all the motions.
And so like he was doing everything he can. He's like, all right, well, how long will it take me to become an expert on this stuff?
Physics,
Like, thousands
engineers.
of years.
Yeah, 50
thousands of
years.
years.
I love
later.
that.
All right, let's go.
Centuries later. And he becomes super smart. And you're
Yeah.
like, what about this? And he's just like, don't worry about that. I got this. Like,
He's like, don't put it on the ground. It will roll off. Stop.
Yeah, that was funny.
So like, we've done this before. I see that.
He's like, all right, well, it's gonna work this time. And Mobius is like, this time? What are you talking about? Like,
It was basically
It was
they
fun to
took
see that.
like 10 seasons of a show and combined it into one.
yeah,
They
it was just
did.
like-
Instead of
Yeah.
going through it, it's just like, let's just
get to
And
the
so he's like,
purpose.
okay, I just need more time. Okay, so I need to go back even further. I need to go to this point, which led him all the way back to.
Well, I saw him like going back to like same points, and I'm just like, why doesn't he go back to He Who Remains?
I think he was still held up on fixing it. And
Well,
when
and
it
I
didn't
think
work,
he didn't want to admit that he didn't want to kill Sylvie.
well, that
Well,
comes
that
that's
come later.
That's later. I think when he finally gets it to work, like the plan.
The plan
all along for the
worked.
whole season was to get the loom to be fixed to where it doesn't drop. And it just came down to
And he got it to work, and then it collapsed.
it collapsed. And
failed.
Victor Timely goes like, it can't scale affinity. It's like dividing by 0. It's impossible. It's multiplying at an infinite rate, and no device can do that. And that's where he goes, this plan doesn't work anymore. And that's where you're right, where he's like, why doesn't he go from like where it all started? And he's at the dilemma of like, I gotta kill Sylvie, but I don't want to
wanna
kill
kill
Sylvie.
So I'm going to do all these other things.
He's doing everything he can. Yeah, it goes up to the end of season 1 before Sylvie kills
And so
who.
And I loved these conversations with He Who Remains. They were so good.
I stopped and had to like just like read the subtitles and
yes.
stuff because it was so good. Like I love the one statement goes, the temporal loom is a failsafe.
Right.
When the loom is overloaded with branches, it deletes the ones that are not supposed to be there, except for the sacred timeline, built to have the same outcome. Basically, it's all like, I designed it this way. It can't be changed. Like, it's how it is. I've programmed this all. And you see that in the one conversation going, you know, once he learns how to,
Right.
you know, what is it? Time slip. And I love that conversation where he's all like, oh, we've had this conversation before, because it's like,
Yeah.
are you going to do nothing while she tries to kill you? And that's when he goes, oh, you've seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I love
the
that.
story. And you're like, ooh, something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it took the story and you're like, okay, you're basically now having 2 storytellers
Yes.
having a conversation, discussing the story. And he's like, I wrote this story.
And like, I'm protecting you because the outcome is there are me's that are going to destroy everything. You know, any sense of peace you had in your life, that's because of me. You know, creating these, like, without me, you don't have security, you know, conversation. But I thought it was very strategic of Loki. Instead of going through the cycle, it's like, let the bad guy tell his plan.
Right.
Let him
Yeah.
like lay down his cards so you know what you're playing with. And that's one thing is like Loki is good. And that's where I kind of support you a little bit on that idea where it's all like Loki may have not gotten mad because he allows people to spill their guts a little bit
Yep.
in order to find out things. So yeah, I love that conversation. And then he's all like, but you can't pause.
He's like, you haven't figured out how to like do this yet. And he goes, bump, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he lets him talk to make him think he does this. Right.
Right.
He's like,
Yeah.
what are you going to say different? I don't want to lay my cards out. I'll let you tell me everything in case something new comes out. And then it shows him, it's like, now we're on the same, like, we
Level.
we're outside of time and space, you know, but the story still goes on. I'm trying to keep my story with Sylvie stays alive and,
Yes.
you know, we fix the loom, or like,
We make it so that no more branches have to die.
yes. And he goes, no. And that's where he goes,
Yeah,
it's a
Loki-
failsafe. They're going to die. It was designed this way. There's nothing you can do about it.
Loki had the dream. He's like, he wants to please all, but he couldn't.
And then, you know, he has his moments, you know, once he realizes what he has to do, he goes and talks to Sylvie and
He talks to Mobius. Yeah.
Mobius.
Mobius.
Yeah, because he goes back to the first interrogation he had in season
I've got that
1.
conversation. Yeah. Because Loki comes to the conclusion when he's with He Who Remains. He goes, Loki will change the equation by breaking the loom. The loom was built to prevent a war and break peace. And that's where he's at the dilemma of like, I got to break it. But there's the decision of like, you can't have complete free will. And that's where he seeks like knowledge from his friends, his family on like, what do I do? And he goes to Mobius in that first interrogation, like you
Right.
said. He goes, he time slips first into that interrogation. He basically proves himself like, we've had this before. All right, let's talk. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the chit chat. You know, how, and he goes, how do you choose who lives and dies, Mobius? You know, there's no comfort. And Mobius goes, there's no comfort in choosing. You know, and he gives the story of the variant of 5,000. You know, kills 5,000, but they come to prune it. It's just an 8-year-old boy. And it goes like, it's like the Hitler baby dilemma.
Right.
Who, you know, do you kill baby Hitler, you know, knowing that he's going to kill all these people, you know, but the baby still has a chance to like live, you know, and we
Yeah.
saw that with Victor Timely, like he could have been a bad guy, but he
goes,
tried to
I
help them.
haven't done
Yes.
Let me
anything.
choose.
And that's what stopped Sylvie from killing him.
Yeah.
It's that, like, fine, I'll let you live in maybe this storyline. We don't have that.
Right.
And he goes on, he goes, like, you got to keep the big picture. Most purpose is more burden than glory. And he goes, how do you live with it? And he goes, with scar tissue. There's no comfort, just burden. And it was some really heavy, like,
Yes.
you've got to take it upon yourself. There's no easy way out. You can't please everyone, as you said.
And that goes back to what Loki has always said. I am burdened with glorious purpose, which is what the name of the last episode was glorious purpose.
You're right. Glorious purpose. I was
and
like,
so,
I can't
like-
remember. I usually announce it, didn't want to.
Right.
It's just transition.
I just remember it because I thought that was really cool. How it's like that's like his whole storyline has literally been building to this moment in the MCU.
It was. And it's.
Ever since his first, like in the first Avengers, when he says that line, I am burdened with glorious purpose, that has led him to this moment.
That was the game he was supposed to play in his mind, and he goes to Sylvan. He goes, do you want to be a god who takes free will? And he goes, what's the point of free will if everyone's dead? And he goes, and then Sylvie goes, it's okay to destroy something. Is there, and then he gets to the point, he goes, if there's hope, you can replace that thing with something better than. And that's when he's like, he has his piece of like what he has to do. And that leads Loki to blowing up the loom.
Do you think that was the overall plan for he who remains?
No, that
No.
was not his plan.
Yeah.
His plan was to have the infinite loop of like, he's protected. He gets to
Yeah.
live forever. He is the end. It was programmed to have that endless loop, that Ouroboros, right?
Yes.
And Loki is the chaos. It was order versus chaos, free will versus order. And, I love that shedding of like the TVA, he's wearing, maybe something he wore before, and his crown. If you look at his crown,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like the temp pad. It's got gold, like slivers as if it has been broken. He's taking on the time pad on his crown. He
Right.
knows what he's supposed to do. He breaks the loom and he grabs the timelines. He carries it, puts it on his back,
It
on his
turns into
cape.
a cape. It was so cool.
It was majestic as he like
Yes.
slowly
It was, like,
realizes.
epic moment.
He's gone through so much time trying to figure out this problem, and then he just realized, this is what I have to do.
Because I was like, why couldn't he go out there? Like, he's not affected by radiation like other people. Like, but he finally comes to the conclusion, like, it's not something I want to do, but it's something I have to do.
burdened with glorious purpose.
Exactly. And it was beautiful. And there's like this sadness that he can't get everything he wants, but he's doing what he has to do. It's kind of what you want with your leadership for your country. Like, I want the person that doesn't want to be the leader.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Not the guy
right,
seeking
but
it.
they're
right?
the right person for
But
the
they're
job.
right. Yeah. But they're the right person for the job. Right. And so he's gone through all this growth, as you said, and he gets to his throne. It turns to gold, and he sits and he's alone. But he's got the weight
Which
of it
that
right
goes
there.
back to season 1 with the old variant of Loki, where he was alone.
Oh,
He
it
was-
the last one.
He was he went and hid.
Yeah, he hid because he knew he was supposed to die,
He knew,
or he was supposed to lose
he
every
was
time
supposed to
and
lose,
bring
and so
chaos to everybody.
He just left the equation, and the only reason why he got pruned is because he got lonely and he came back, because Loki was always meant to be alone.
He's supposed to create chaos and build the other characters.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the punching bag for other greatness to achieve. And, he's taking on that burden right there. So I thought it was beautiful. The tree, symbolic. Think of the first Captain America.
Right.
You got the tree where the Tesseract is
Tesseract
there.
was
There's a
stored.
tree there. Spider-Verse, there's a tree. There's trees like on the
The
murals.
sacred
Yeah.
tree.
They're everywhere. The sacred tree. Yeah. And I like the little poster like, we can grow it together.
Right.
Love the little
Yeah.
poster and the TVA.
Which is great that the TVA have found a new purpose in protecting the branch timelines instead of destroying them.
Yes, they're searching for the
They're
remnants
keeping an eye,
of
they're keeping an eye on the variants of
King. Yeah.
and or He Who Remains, just to make sure that they don't know about each other.
Yeah.
You know, that's their kind of purpose now, which I think is a fitting, you know, what their purpose should be at this point. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And you do get a moment where Renslayer, she was pruned,
Yeah, she was taken to that world.
and you see this purple light, and you're like, oh, she's gonna get eaten by that monster. And there's rumors that it's really Kang, because you look on the ground,
It's the TVA
it's
symbol.
the new TVA symbol, meaning it's been pruned or attacked.
Meaning King supposedly he's coming
coming
back.
He's coming back.
And he's going to destroy the TVA.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick that up.
I saw it on a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because they purposely show
The
the
seal.
crest, the seal that we
Yes.
just saw a couple minutes ago or a minute ago, and they kind of leave it open because you don't see who's there, so it kind of like leaves open of like, how does this court case go for the actor that plays him, because he's gotten in trouble, you know, or he's been accused of
Right.
trouble, and so Disney
But
is
it
very.
could be a variant, and it could be like a female variant, or
It could. You know, you do see a pyramid in the background, and they did show
In Ant-Man
Ant-Man
Quantumania.
Quantumania. You see one
I
of the
forget
leader
what
ones.
his name. Yeah, they've all got different
He's
names.
got an Egyptian stuff, but yeah, you see alien versions of it. They could. They could do a
Yeah.
variant, and that would be the easiest way of not having the actor there.
Yeah.
Although, you know, besides his legal story, I thought he did a fantastic
did.
job.
Oh, I agree.
You know?
I think he's a great role for this character.
He's I thought he's done a great job, and you know, hopefully everything can be cleared up, and you know, there can be peace and justice with what's going on, and you know, see if he could reprise his role if it's part of the MCO's direction they're going. But they have many directions. You've mentioned Doctor Doom before.
Yeah, I mean Doctor Doom is already the supposed villain of not the next Avengers movie, but the one after that. The Secret War. No, is
Yeah, Secret Wars.
that what that's called?
I think it's what it's called. It's what I've heard it.
Okay, then that's the one it's called. I was accidentally thinking of Secret Invasion. That's the difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other Marvel.
That's what was throwing me. I was
Series that
like,
we
wait, what?
Series.
Probably aren't talking about.
We'll talk
we'll
about
talk
it
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
the end of the year with Disney Plus, but this TV show, like I said, I loved it.
Yes.
It was-
So refreshing.
It's different, and that's what was nice
It
about
kept me
it.
engaged. It kept me wanting more.
I thought,
But once it was done, did you feel complete?
I felt complete.
I don't need any more Loki. I really don't need this Loki
I
anymore.
don't need more Loki. I miss some stories of other characters in that series.
What's her? What?
Renslayer.
Yeah,
I
Renslayer's
feel-
story arc is fun, but she may come back with that.
Yes.
That door is open.
That door is open, which I like to hear because I don't know. I felt like they built up Renslayer in the
Because-
first season so well, and then the second season I was really disappointed.
It is flat for what they did to her.
It was really
Right.
flat, and,
Which I think might be done on purpose because they might be saving her because she is his main general in the war.
She's good at what she does.
And so she's gonna come back to help him again.
I hope. I do. I hope that actually happens, and I hope that Marvel just doesn't get
Well,
rid of
I mean,
the
a lot of
story
it's
or
going to
drop
be,
it.
it's all dependent on what they decide to do because of this whole legal thing.
Yeah, they were really banking like this was gonna be the next Thanos, right?
Right.
You're gonna get a couple more movies and the Avengers, but they're expediting their timeline. Also, movies are not the same, and the return of investment aren't there. Disney Plus
Yeah.
return of investment in Hollywood is hurting, and then they had the strikes, and so it's a different world. We have no idea what we're gonna getting. I feel like the Marvel Endgame is it's
more.
unique. It's kind of like Hollywood before World War II. You get like Wizard of Oz and it's all this, and
Right.
then they come back from the war and it's a different world. You're not going to get those musical kind of stories anymore. It's you get more human, and that's what kind of happens after big events in human history. And I think COVID has definitely changed movies
Absolutely.
and entertainment forever
Yes.
for us. So I appreciate what we got from Avengers Endgame, but I can't hope for that world coming back again because I'm not seeing the carrot for Disney to do a story like that. Even though they're trying to replicate it, they can't. I just don't see it.
Yeah. I think part of me is sad that there's no more Loki, like no more story of Loki, and I felt like I didn't get like Loki in second season, like the Loki
Sure.
I know.
The
I get
chaos.
that. Like it did not feel like your typical MCU
It felt
type
like a
show.
brand new character.
It felt like something not related to Marvel.
correct.
Yes. Again, you got a changed Loki,
Yes.
and it's a variant. We do see, like, in the first season, you see Lokis that have been in that, like, pruned world changed,
Yep.
and there's a lot of self-reflection of who they are. And what we've seen past with Loki is young and mature. It's kind of like with Thor.
Yeah.
And we're seeing Thor grow up, sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
He's got a kid now.
Yeah.
But in a way, he's changed. He's got brown eyebrows, not blonde, like
Right.
from the first one. But so yeah, it's tough to see the god of chaos turn into the god of stories.
Yes. That's his
And there's
new
the comic book
character.
where, like, young Loki, this chaos, sees old Loki, and he realizes, oh, this is where it's supposed to go. This is my drive.
I definitely enjoyed season 1 better than season 2.
Season 1 was awesome.
It
Yeah.
was. It was great.
It was more fun.
Yeah.
This did not have the
This
fun
was
factor.
a story closer
Yes.
season.
It was.
That's what
This
it
was a closure on Loki as a character.
Yes.
Tom Hiddleston, he did come out recently and said that, like, this is
It's a good ending.
It's a symphony to his 14 years of playing this character.
Yeah, I don't know what more he could do after
Like, if he
this.
comes back, he's gonna only come back as, like, a brief cameo. Like,
Yeah.
he's not gonna play a role. He'll play like a variant. You know what I mean?
He's not going to be with Thor fighting battles
No.
anymore.
No, that story's over.
And I'm
And I think that would be detrimental to Thor's character
Yes.
as well.
I'm the god of storylines. What are you, Thunder? That's nice. That's cute. Your story's dead. I let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at peace with this.
Yes.
And it's weird
It's
to have
just-
that
it's
with
the
a
same-
Hollywood story where you're like, I am at peace with this. And I kind of feel like, Disney, why couldn't you do this with Star Wars?
It's the
Why
same
couldn't I
feeling
get this
have,
peace feeling with it?
It's
Yeah.
the same feeling I have with Iron Man. When Tony
Yes.
Stark passed
Yeah.
away, I was satisfied with that
Yes.
passing.
Even with the Captain America.
Yeah.
Yep. Even with Captain
He was
America.
like, oh, he's with Peggy, lived a life, and it was.
I mean, they are closing these original stories, and it's
you got a new
moving
generation,
on.
younger. I get it.
yeah.
which will lead us into the Marvels, which we'll discuss on another date because so far I'm the only one that's seen it. So I will not talk about
I honestly didn't know it came out. I was like, oh, come out Thanksgiving. Oh,
that.
it's
No,
out.
it came out just this last weekend here.
Yeah.
That tells you when we recorded this episode.
Any last thoughts before we end this?
It's great.
Go watch
It's
it.
fantastic.
Make sure you watch the first season
Yep.
if you haven't seen it.
They do a good job of recapping it.
They do.
If you do.
but you should
if-
watch it.
You should watch the first season if you haven't seen it.
You can watch it, or you can listen to our first review
Yep.
of this, or the first season review of it. I think we give it praise too as well. All right. Thank you for listening. This concludes our episode of Loki season 2 of the Matterhorn Yodelers reviewing it. Please follow us on our social medias. Give us a like. Subscribe to us on Spotify. Share with friends and family if you like what we're producing. If you don't like what we're producing, you can communicate with us and going, hey, this stinks.
You can go
Fix
climb.
it.
You can go climb the sacred tree.
I'll listen, but if it's about me, I'm not gonna like it. But I'll have to think about it. So yes, follow us on our social medias, and with that saying, Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember,
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.